It's really great to be with everybody today. So, my name's Erin Parrish, and I run Human Kindness Foundation. And our work is really to build loving spiritual community behind and beyond bars. And we do this in a variety of ways that we're going to talk about today. But I'd like to start this time together with both a story and a practice that illustrates one way that we build spiritual community, and it was born on North Carolina's death row. During the early days of COVID, one of our friends on death row, her name is Priscilla James. She is a Buddhist transgender woman. She was talking with a fellow resident who's a Muslim man about what they could do from where they were to make the world a better place in this time when there was so much suffering and so much loss and hardship. And what they decided is from where they were, they could sit together every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. and share love and light with all suffering beings. And they called this practice Together Apart, and they invited us to join with them. And then we invited the readers of our newsletter. We have a newsletter that goes out 3 times a year to over 20,000 readers experiencing incarceration, as well as thousands of readers who aren't experiencing incarceration. And we invited our readers to join in with this practice as well. And so now we have people from Texas to Thailand spending a bit of their Wednesdays just, being in loving spirit with themselves and others. So we thought, hey, today's Wednesday and we're together apart. So we'd like to invite y'all to join in this practice with us today. So we'd like to start with just a brief meditation practice, which is adapted from a practice that we did in a mindfulness group that we lead at a local prison, Orange Correctional. So let's spend a little bit of time together apart. I'd like to invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze and check in with your body and find a position of dignity, however that looks like and feels like to you. It might involve straightening your spine, putting your shoulders back, holding your head high, planting your feet firmly on the ground. However that feels, sit in your power, your strength, and your dignity. Breathe in your power, your strength, and your dignity. Take a moment to settle into yourself, to this time, into this space that we share together. This precious present moment that we are gifted to share together apart. Start to pay attention to your breath, letting it slow down and deepen. There's no wrong way to breathe. There's only your way. So find a slow, natural rhythm that works for you. Now, as you breathe in and breathe out, imagine your body washed in warm light. As you feel the warmth on your back, Picture your shadow at your feet. Welcome the shadow as part of you. Don't let it cloud your vision. Shadows only exist because of light. This light also exists within you and will always be part of you. As you breathe in and breathe out, imagine that light that lives within you expanding. First as a flicker in your heart, and now spreading throughout your body. Feel yourself filled with light, with warmth, and with love. Now, place your awareness on the light that lives in everyone in this circle, and all that we share together from all the parts of the world that we are. And as you breathe in and breathe out, imagine yourself breathing in the light we share as a community, and breathing out the love we have to offer to ourselves and to others. And finally, place your awareness on the light that lives in everyone who walks this earth and in all living beings. As you breathe in and breathe out, imagine yourself breathing in all the light we share in the world, and breathing out the love we have to offer to ourselves and to others. On days and in moments when you are more aware of your shadow than your light, remember that others may be sharing their light with you right now. There is always light to give and to receive, even when we do not know it or feel it. As we begin to wind down, ask yourself, how do I want to acknowledge, nurture, and honor the light and shadow that lives within and surrounds me? Take a moment to feel gratitude for the light that lives within everyone in this space we share together and all that will emerge. Before you open your eyes or lift your gaze, imagine what you will see where you are and the eyes you want to see your world with. And now open your eyes or lift your gaze and come back to this space with a renewed appreciation of the light you and every living being hold. Thank you. So, we wanted to start with that and also with the phrase and the concept of together apart, because it really sums up what we've been about for the past 50 years and who we want to be moving forward as well. This was a practice that came to us from prison, from death row, right? And then we were able to share that with you and share it with our community, and this community grows. So this is just a deep part of the ways in which we build spiritual community. We recently celebrated our 50th anniversary, and we also wanted to share a brief video from our 50th anniversary celebration that kind of summarizes some of the work that we've been doing for the past 50 years, and then also highlights some new content that we will be talking about today. So this is our website, and a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about, the new content, you can also find on our website.
Hello, this is Priscilla James Thomas. I'm calling from Central Prison's Death Row. We wanted to say happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
Today is the day. Today is really the 50th anniversary. Exactly 50 years ago yesterday, Ram Dass spoke at Duke University. We told him that we had visited our brother-in-law at the federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana that summer. And on the way home, Bo said he wasn't sure how it would unfold. But he felt some kind of connection to people inside. So when Ram Dass told us, perhaps 50 years ago from right now, that he had been sending copies of Be Here Now into prison libraries throughout the country, was starting to get letters from people in prison, and was feeling somewhat overwhelmed, we offered to take his letters, and that was the birth of the Prison Ashram Project.
Ram Dass? Yes, we'd be happy to answer the letters. We're young, but...
We are committed, and I'm sure we could offer some helpful advice.
Absolutely, just simple stuff.
Dear Human Kindness Foundation, I have a question. How is it that the universe is unfolding as it should, and at the same time, I'm the creator of everything in my world? 2 people are dead because of me. Is that my having created this for myself, or is it the world unfolding as it should? Could you please explain?
And so it began. Letter.
By letter. By letter.
Dear HKF, I'm a formerly condemned man whose conviction was overturned. Can you imagine the pressures, questions, the fears after 20 years on death row? What do? I've never been successful living in society.
Dear HKF, I am super lonely and thinking crazy thoughts and scared of getting out. I've never been out of prison longer than a year. Never held a job. Never paid rent. Never had a credit card. Hell, I've never done nothing. So I don't know where to start. I have my parole clothes, and that's it.
Dear HKF, my release date's in 4 months. I'll be living out of my car. Where do I go?
Where do I go?
Where do I go from here?
In this troubled world, we bend into the light of each other's hearts, generating and weaving the seeds of kindness. When I had no love, you gave me yours. When I was in darkness and total blindness, you gave me your human kindness. As we sit within our prison walls, built by choices and decisions we have made, now is the time
a time for change. Just one kind act bleeds respect like blocks building a staircase in our minds, climbing above the anger and pain, manifesting our own destiny of love.
I was able to make parole in 2008. I've done well, doing the right thing all the time, over and over again. Try to be able to just be of service to other people is a lesson I learned from you people. I sure appreciate that too. Thank you very much.
We're hardwired for connection. One of the deepest cruelties of incarceration is how it separates people from so many of the loving connections we need to thrive. For our 50th anniversary, it was really important for us to highlight the voices, stories, talent, and wisdom of people experiencing incarceration because they are the heart and soul of our community. They are here. There are so many voices here. So much spirit here. The heart of our work is about getting free, and the only way we get free is together.
The Human Kindness Foundation, there's a lot of heart. I've met so many guys in prison who don't have any family or friends to speak of, and it's like a family. You may not have a family of origin, but they're pretty good brothers and sisters for a family of choice.
Actually, the first voice in that video, Priscilla James, is the person who created the Together Apart practice. So that was fun to share. Human Kindness Foundation, we build community behind and beyond bars by collaboratively creating and sharing books, newsletters, and workshops with people experiencing incarceration. And all of the resources that we collaboratively create work to nurture spirituality, mindfulness, and wellness, and help turn difficult experiences into wisdom. We've been around for 50 years, and during this time, we have provided free books and newsletters in English and Spanish to people in prisons, jails, transitional centers, and recovery centers. We currently send resources to about 2,400 facilities throughout the United States and also in Canada and Guam. Most of the times people write us to request resources. Our whole work started with letter writing, and we still get hundreds and hundreds of letters a month that staff and volunteer respond to. And most of those are people requesting free resources. We also get staff at these facilities requesting resources that could be for supporting mental health programming, spiritual programming, or for libraries. We started with a newsletter in 1979, and we still do 3 newsletters a year and have easily sent out over 1 million newsletters to people in prisons and jails since then. We have easily distributed 500,000 books since this time. That's a very conservative estimate. And also we know from, what people tell us that when one person gets a book, they often share it. They could be sharing it with their cellmate. It could be passed around in a dorm. If it goes to a library, it's going to many different people. So I think it's very safe to say that millions of people have used our resources while incarcerated. We have written 6 books ourselves. All of our books are explicitly written for an incarcerated audience and include content from people experiencing incarceration, such as artwork and their letters and writing. And all of our books are explicitly interfaith. We also partner with mission-aligned organizations that have resources that are, contemplative, that teach about spirituality, mindfulness, and wellness. Oftentimes they're written explicitly for an incarcerated audience, like Prison Contemplative Fellowship, or just very accessible work like Pema Chodron's work that we distribute for the Pema Chodron Foundation. So some of our books are explicitly Buddhist, some of our books are explicitly Christian, some of our books are explicitly interfaith, but they're really all about how you can develop practices in your life that help you to understand yourself better, that help you to grow, and ideally help you to heal in some ways. Oh, and we distribute 17 books now from our own books and other people's organizations. One of the things that we have worked on recently over the past couple of years is expanding our work to also have content on tablets. So we have started off as being a very paper-based organization. So, letters, newsletters, books, and especially during COVID, but even before COVID, things were changing a lot in prisons, and mail rooms and libraries were closing down during COVID. It's gotten way worse and has never bounced back with really low staffing. Many facilities are 25% to 45% understaffed. And so we really needed to get our resources also on tablets, because a lot of prisons and jails are trying to move to tablets, providing all written contact and a lot of their programming. So we partnered with the free educational app Adovo that is on tablets in 800 prisons and jails across the country. And the nice thing, we're not trying to replace our books and our written resources, our paper resources with tablets, but to expand. And a nice thing about having resources on tablets is that we're able to have audio resources like podcasts. We got Omid Safi's podcast Radical Love on contemplative Islam on the tablets, which was really great. We've got some videos. Prison Contemplative Fellowship has documentaries on centering prayer. So it's been able to expand the kind of offerings that we've been able to provide. And this content's been resourced over 50,000 times in the past year. So another thing that has been the bread and butter of what we do is also going into facilities and doing workshops mainly on mindfulness in prisons and jails, but we've also put on concerts and even magic shows. And this is a really important part of how we build community and how we collaboratively create resources that then get fed into our newsletters and our books. Between 2015 and 2020, we had a monthly mindfulness group on death row in Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're based in North Carolina, but all of our resources go across the country. And that's where we met our friends whose voices were featured at the beginning of the video. And also, since September 2022, we've been running a mindfulness group twice a month at Orange Correctional Facility in Hillsborough, North Carolina. So the last voice on the video was a participant from that group. We operate on a gift economy. Everything that we have, we give away. It might not be the best business plan, but it's the one we've had for the past 50 years. People request resources from us and we give them, but it's a reciprocal gift economy, right? So we offer and people offer us. When people are writing to us, oftentimes the envelopes are decorated with just the coolest artwork. Sometimes people incorporate the stamp into the artwork, which is really nice. And people send what they can, right? They might be sending a letter, they might be sending poetry, artwork. We get a lot of memoirs, we get a lot of manifestos. I got a notebook of someone's spiritual wisdom that he tried to give his son, and his son didn't want his lifetime of spiritual wisdom, so he gave it to me, and I was very grateful. We get packets of Nescafe, stamps, sugar packets, tea bags. One of my favorite is this cat-themed daily planner that I got really early on from getting this job, and it said, "To Erin, if this don't make you smile, nothing will. Enjoy, Darrell." And you know what? I was not having the greatest day, and this little cat guy came, and I'm not very organized, and I need all the help I can. So somehow Darrell knew, and I think he sent me some Nescafe as well, which was cool. But it's these gifts that we receive also goes into the content that we make, right? So it's this circular relationship of reciprocity. this artwork here is one of our favorite pieces of art that we've received from an artist who goes by the name Proficient in Knowledge, PIK. And he sent it to us when he was incarcerated in Texas. And it was a gift to Sita. And it was inspired from a story from one of our books called The Saddest Buddha. And we love her so much that we splash her on everything that we can. And we also have some note cards for sale on our website. So if you want to take home The Saddest Buddha, you can. And PIK has also gotten out of prison, so we're splitting the profits with him. So that's been a fun, exciting new offering. So yeah, so these resources that we receive, these gifts, we turn it into new content. And some of this content was featured on the video that I'll talk about in more detail. One was a new performance piece called Together Apart. Another was a collaborative play called Dancing in a Sky of Kindness. And another was 50 Days of Kindness, which are daily reflections. All of these are available on our website. Together Apart, the play, when we knew that we were putting on this 50th anniversary celebration, we wanted to do something with the letters that would tell a story. And so we partnered with a local arts collective, Hidden Voices Collective, to take the letters, that 50 years of letters that we have received and that we've responded to, and turn that into a new performance piece. And it was performed first at our 50th anniversary celebration. And the story that really resulted was not one of like people asking for advice and getting answers. It was really about people struggling together with really hard ideas and making a connection and feeling that they were heard, that someone was listening, and that they were valued, that they were cherished, and they were respected. So it was performed the first time at our 50th anniversary celebration, and one of the guests at the celebration also volunteers at the same prison where we have our mindfulness group at, and she asked if she could bring the play into a reading and discussion group that she had. And the guys in the discussion group liked the play so much that they decided that they wanted to stage it themselves. So they spent a couple of months, they edited it, they added new characters, they built props and costumes, and a couple months later, they performed the play to 70 residents and community volunteers. And I really, really loved their version of the play. It's not that the professional version wasn't good, but like their version was so real, there was like so much sincerity and depth, and I knew most of the actors. And so I knew like in moments when they were reading someone else's words, and this could have been a letter that someone had sent in 40 years ago, but I knew that those words were mirroring their own experiences, whether it was, pain, of loss, of transformation, of kindness. So that was a really great project to be part of and to see how it continues to evolve. Another project that came out of our 50th anniversary was a collaborative poem called Dancing in a Sky of Kindness. So we are very lucky to have the North Carolina Poet Laureate, Jackie Shelton Green, as our board chair. And so for our 50th anniversary, I had this great idea. I'm like, let's build this collaborative poem. And I mean, I'm saying let's because I'm asking Jackie to do this. But I said, let's, solicit responses from our readers, from our newsletter, and see what happens when we throw out a prompt, which was write a poem in 50 words or less on the meaning of kindness. And you, Jackie, can just weave this into a poem. And she said yes, because she's awesome. And we got 52 submissions. And you can see one here, Kindness Spreads Like a Disease by Zero Cool. And he says on the bottom, 56 words with title, sorry. But actually, like Zero Cool was super cool because I don't think anyone else came close to 56 words. Like we got hundreds of pages of poetry. And Jackie wove excerpts from each one of those poems into a 1,200 word poem. It was 10 minutes long. 80% of the words were from the author's experiencing incarceration, and she created basically the scaffolding around it with her words. So it was beautiful, and I really loved this project for many ways, and particularly because it really celebrated the wisdom of people experiencing incarceration, and there was a hopefulness to it that was hard, but a hopefulness in the midst of hard experiences was just a really beautiful, beautiful result. And then the last project that we had was daily reflections that used a quote that people have from letters that people have sent into us or other kinds of writing from the past 50 years from prison and jail, a piece of artwork that someone has sent to us from prison or jail, and then brief reflections and reflection questions. So I wrote most of the reflections and reflection questions, and then the artwork and the writing come from people experiencing incarceration. And so we made reflections that went into our newsletter, and then we also put out the daily reflections on social media and in daily and weekly email blasts. And this was kind of a new thing for us because most of our content, like we've really focused on incarcerated audiences. We are content creators for incarcerated audiences. So our resources are explicitly about going into prisons and jails. And we haven't done as much focusing on the non-incarcerated audience. And what we really want to be doing moving forward as well is to highlight the wisdom and the creativity of people experiencing incarceration to non-incarcerated audiences as well, because we have so much to learn from people who have experienced incarceration. And so this reflection is actually I use these reflections as a basis of the mindfulness group that we lead at Orange Correctional. And this was the reflection that the meditation that we started with was based on. So we are also turning these reflections into a book. You might notice Together Part is a very frequent title for what we do, but we are working on a book of weekly reflections to make a year of reflections. And that is basically an expansion of the 50 Days of Kindness project that has additional reflections and additional writing that's grouped around the themes that the reflections touch upon, such as paying attention, offering gratitude, acknowledging and understanding pain, anger, and power, making peace, letting go, healing, helping, loving, and connecting. And these are all the topics that we talk about in our mindfulness group. One of the topics that we talk about a lot are the uses of pain and the ways in which our hard life experiences can be transformed into wisdom that can help ourselves and help others. That's probably one of our biggest themes of the work that we do. Another theme that comes up a lot is on worthiness and belonging. This comes up almost every group that I'm a part of people, thinking about guilt and thinking about shame. And we talk a lot about the utility of guilt and the corrosive quality of shame. Guilt can be acknowledging things that you've done and needing to make amends. I have done a bad thing, but shame is this corrosive, I am bad, totalizing emotion that we talk about a lot of, like, how do you unwind yourself and extract yourself from shame? Yeah, one single reflection can go just a million different ways. This particular reflection, we ended up talking about, what does it mean to have a core self? Do you have a core self? What does it mean to be human? Conversations about masks I have found in a prison setting become really live because people talk a lot about their experiences of racism, their experiences of different forms of prejudice, of addiction, of masks that they have had thrust upon them or that they have hidden behind, and what is the work that we do to take off the masks in our lives. This particular reflection, we went 45 minutes over. There were tears. There was a guard who got involved in the class, and he had really wacky ideas about the Batman franchise and the core self. So we can go a lot of different places with one reflection. Another new project that we're working on is, we're tentatively calling it Families Together Apart, but it is a book of creative mindfulness activities that parents experiencing incarceration can work on together with their children. So we've just started working on this, and we shared our first sample activity in our newsletter with our 20,000 plus readers to get their feedback. And we're also collaborating with a North Carolina-based organization called Our Children's Place that works to support children with parents experiencing incarceration. And they are sharing these activities as we make them in one-on-one feedback sessions with fathers, and also sharing them at Parents' Day visitation events at several prisons in North Carolina. And we're currently also developing these activities with a young woman whose father experienced incarceration and consulting with fathers who had previously experienced incarceration. And this is a topic that is really near and dear to my heart because my sister was incarcerated when she was 9 months pregnant, and my mom and I have raised her daughter ever since, pretty much. So I think in some ways this activity is sort of a love letter to all of the families who are experiencing incarceration, because when one person experiences incarceration, the whole family does. One of the key points of what we do is create opportunities for people to learn from the wisdom of lived experience, from our own wisdom and from the wisdom of others. Most of our deepest wisdom that we share and that we receive comes from learning from difficult experiences. And this is not about glorifying pain at all. Like, a lot of suffering doesn't make us better or wiser. Sometimes things just hurt, and that's real. But pain has a process, and pain can have a purpose. But pain needs to be acknowledged, held, and shared before we can get to a point of understanding the meaning behind it, what kinds of lessons could be learned, and what kinds of healing is possible, and what are the limits. We have to create structures of support around experiences of pain that allow people to learn from and share wisdom with others. And prisons and jails are about as far as you can come from structures of support. They are structures that perpetuate more trauma. They very rarely lead to healing. And until prisons and jails no longer exist, we have the obligation to do what we can to make these spaces less traumatic and offer people opportunities and structures to work towards individual and collective healing. So we need space, sense, structure, and story to turn experience into wisdom. And we try to provide aspects of these to people experiencing incarceration in different ways. So in the midst of a difficult experience, you need space to be able to try and understand, like, what has happened to you, what is happening to you. And that is really, really hard to get when you're in prison or you're in jail in an ongoing traumatic experience with very little personal space. And that's why we really focus on mindfulness and mindfulness practices as a way to create space for yourself and a way to get some distance and perspective on your life, on what has happened to you and where you want to be going. Once you're able to get some space, that's when you can start to make sense of things that have happened to you. But you need a way to process this. You need a structure. A container really helps. And so many of the letters that we get are just that structure in that container. They're people writing to us to tell us about their experiences. Those memoirs we get, that artwork, the poetry, these are people who want to be heard. They want someone to value their life experiences, and we provide that container for people in the best way that we're able to do that. And that's what our workshops are as well. They're a container for people to process their experiences. And once you're able to do that, then you can get to a point where you're able to share a story about your experience and share your wisdom with other people. And this learning and teaching from experience is healing. It's healing to the individual who's sharing wisdom, and it's healing to the person who's learning from it. And a lot of the content in our books and our newsletters and our other resources are these kinds of stories that we're able to share with a wide audience. So this little guy, this little caterpillar, is an example of how space, sense, structure, and story can operate in the work that we do. This was one of the reflections that we did in a mindfulness group that we had a couple months ago at a local prison. And we get a lot of drawings of butterflies. Like everybody loves a butterfly. Butterflies are beautiful. They're, symbols of transformation. They're free. They can fly. They make great tattoos. Everybody loves a butterfly. Our little buddy, like the squishy caterpillar, it doesn't get anywhere near as much time. So I think this is either the only caterpillar we've ever gotten in 50 years or one of two. I'm not entirely sure, but we just don't get many caterpillars, right? So I was really excited to share this reflection and the caterpillar at our group. And one of the guys in the group, we will call him Malik, was also really excited when he saw this. And he was just like, that caterpillar, that's my guy. And so I knew he had a story, and he did not disappoint. So he said, years ago, he was trying to get honor grade, which basically means getting a little more privileges and a little more freedom in a place where you have very little freedom. And he went to his case manager's office to try and argue his case of why he should get honor grade. And he walked in, and she had butterflies like all over the place, all over the walls. And he's like, yeah, she's all hippie and stuff, maybe I got a chance. And so he made his little case, and he did not have a chance. And he turned her down. He turned him down, and he got mad, which probably didn't help his case, but he told her what he thought of. And he said, this is your problem. You want to skip straight to the butterfly, but you can't see that right now I'm a caterpillar. You can't see who I can be. And he didn't get honor grade, but he told her what he thought, and that was really important to him. And so he concluded, everyone has a turning point, a moment where they can say, I've changed. I'm not going to be the same as I was before. If you don't have that turning point, I don't believe you've really changed. You haven't really healed. I can say now that I love myself, that I look in the mirror and I know that I'm a butterfly, but I wasn't always that way. I had to start off as a caterpillar. And maybe we all want to skip to the butterfly stage. It's hard work being a caterpillar, and being in the cocoon is even worse. Caterpillars melt when they're in the cocoon. The butterfly lives in the caterpillar, but you have to get the cellular soup of the cocoon for the butterfly to emerge. So the revelation of the butterfly doesn't happen without the intensity, the destruction, the disintegration, and the reintegration that happens in the cocoon. And Malik's story offered us this great opportunity to grapple with these complicated ideas that he had been struggling with for years before he got to the point that day that he was able to share the wisdom of his life experience with us. His story was the result of having the distance of time and the space of practice to make sense of the experience. And the structure of the group allowed him the opportunity to share this story with others. And after Malik shared his story, everyone in the group started talking about their own experiences and where they felt they were in their lives. And not surprisingly, a lot of people really resonated with the cocoon phase, and they felt like prison was their own experience of a cocoon. And we talked about how there were no shortcuts and how we often like to skip over the hard stuff or the small stuff or the things that aren't exciting to get to the flashy, but we only get to the butterfly through the caterpillar and cocoon. Most of the learning that happens in any community really comes from sharing our stories with each other. Our capacity to learn, to grow, and to heal is made so much stronger when we're able to learn, grow, and heal together. And that's what we try to provide with our work. And the healing that happens in prison and jail is largely happening despite the structures of the criminal legal system and not because of it. When we look at the criminal legal system as a whole, we see what happens when we create structures that offer very little space for community, creativity, and curiosity to flourish. It's a system that really functions through disconnection, and it is designed like that on purpose. It is designed to tear apart communities, and it makes it really difficult to build healthy, helpful, and nurturing communities within this structure. It's a system that doesn't allow for much curiosity of what has happened to people, why they do what they do, and who they could be in the future. It it's a system that makes it really difficult for creativity and curiosity to flourish at all levels. So that's from police and corrections officers to prosecutors and judges to people experiencing incarceration and victims. There's very little space for people to think creatively about what justice, punishment, rehabilitation, and repair can look like, or what it would look like for these different actors to collaborate together to think about solutions. And so what inspires me the most is when I see people creating community, being curious about the world, and incredibly creative despite the circumstances. We have a painting in our office that is made from the dye of M&Ms. Somebody used M&Ms as paint, and it looks like watercolor. We get artwork that is made on the back of unanswered grievance forms. We get people asking for materials for how they can start and lead their own mindfulness groups. And we have people on death row creating their own collective spiritual practices. So what if our justice system was made of communities of curious and creative people working together to get well? And I see this exist in small pockets, like the rose that grows in the crack of concrete. And the task at hand is to work to make this the norm instead of the exception. So a lot of projects that work with people in prison and jail or in reentry work can focus on the need for personal transformation. And this has its place, but I'd say we're more interested in the collective work of revelation. And this means working to strip ourselves and others from the layers of protection and pain that we think make us who we are. Underneath the layers of what we show to the world, or who the world believes us to be, is the core of who we are. We are already who we need to be. We just aren't always aware of it, and we don't always believe it. The work of revelation is to be able to see yourself clearly and see that you are enough. You are more than enough. And that's when people can start the process of freeing themselves, when they see that they aren't broken or bad, regardless of what they may have done or what has been done to them. That's when people are able to start to heal and begin to feel whole. So I'd like to end with these words from the poem, Dancing in a Sky of Kindness, that comes from multiple voices and tells a collective story of the kind of revelation and of the strength that lives within us all. If there was no shadow, there would be no light. A life force rekindles the fires we've never lost, leaving embers to be born. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Erin. I was so struck at how beautiful that is, your work of embracing the shadow and like really working through the shame around that arises. And I'm wondering, well, we're going to start with our Q&A portion, I believe. So I guess my first question is, you seem to have such a good understanding of trauma and how to work with trauma. Who are the people that have influenced you in terms of psychology and things like that?
I know I am completely an untrained therapist. So I will say first my mother, right? So my mother is a child psychologist, child and adolescent psychologist that worked like desire projects in New Orleans, juvenile justice in the state of Louisiana, and like public mental health in rural Georgia. And like I would have her clients talking to me. I grew up with emergency foster care kids and refugees living with us. And so like my first teachers were both like my mother, a psychologist, and people experiencing a ton of trauma themselves and coming to our home as a place of refuge and essentially as a safe house. And so I think, this has shaped my entire career, right? Because what I've seen is people fleeing from the worst experiences that they've had in their lives and finding a space of safety. And some people can make it after that. Like some people are able to rebuild their lives, and some people it's just kind of too much. And this has nothing to do with people's individual strength and just like the realities of life. But that's shaped everything that I've done in my life. And then, I mean, when I worked in Colombia, it was all on people fleeing violence and returning to their homes and returning to places where violence has happened. And so, I mean, Bessel van der Kolk would be the first person, because I was really interested in somatic healing and the physicality of memory, and also the environmental quality of memory and trauma, and also resilience. And so I think I don't think we can talk about trauma without talking about resilience, and we can get really fixated on trauma as a thing without being equally fixated on people's strength and resilience. So that's my kind of messy answer to that, Chloe. Merelda
Thank you.
Parrish and Bessel van der Kolk. So
Looks like Lloyd raised his hands.
Yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations, 50 years. I am an ex-offender and I have been 20 months. My maximum is 20 months, so I'm a short timer, but yeah, it's just really amazing. I got all the books. I remember the thing that stuck out with me most was mountain meditation in one of the books. I forget which one, but my head is always got stuff running around and thinking around, so it's hard for me to meditate. But yeah, it's just I also have mental health, so most of the time when I would go into incarceration, it'd be around the holidays when I was manic. But I mean, it's become the new repository. It's just hard to see, people with mental health, and when they empty the medical pod with all the guys that are going to be there a while, I'm probably not going to make it out. So I'm also a writer, so I'm thinking about writing a book about my travels through various incarceration places. So yeah, so thanks again for everything y'all do. Yeah.
Lloyd, thank you for being here, and just like, thank you for sharing some of your journey with us. My sister struggles with her mental health, and I mean, that's the reason why she was in and out of prison. I mean, this is what we're doing in this country, where our jails are our largest mental health. Our jails become our mental health facilities, and there aren't actually opportunities and options for people to be able to get the support they need. So I just really appreciate your presence here. And I love the fact that you're writing, because I do think that there's like so much that is therapeutic about having that container. Like, whatever it is, if it's writing, if it's artwork, if it's cooking, just like whatever it is that gives you a space to feel clear is great. Oh, and then another thing, Lloyd, I feel like people are like, meditation's so hard. Like, I'm not good at meditation. There's no way to be bad at meditation. You just have to come to it with who you are, where you are at that time, with an open heart and an open mind. And then you might have a lot of stuff in your mind, but maybe it's just supposed to be there right then. And maybe you're just supposed to say, like, I honor these thoughts. I feel like a lot of times if people are like taught with meditation, it's like you're supposed to fight and beat back those thoughts. And I'm like, honor it. Honor whatever's present, and then it will go away, and something else I think that's like the key to me about meditation, is like, honor the moment and recognize that it will leave. But we get stuck in the stickiness and the attachment of things that are rolling around in our brain, thinking it's forever. So that's my little non-solicited meditation advice.
Okay. First, when you were talking about caterpillars and butterflies, I just have to tell you, on my desk, I have a plaque, and it says, just when the caterpillar thought that the world was over, it became a butterfly. So that's on my desk. One thing that I have been working really hard to try with a small group of women to go into our local prison here. And it has taken over a year to go through all the red tape that one needs to go through. Is that normal?
I'm sorry, Maria. Yes, it is.
Okay. I just wanted to know if that was normal.
It's gotten so much, A, it's normal, but B, it's gotten so much worse during and after COVID, because of COVID, there's a huge staffing shortage all across the country. Where are you? Like where are you in the world?
Well, we're in New York and Connecticut, so we were looking at Bedford.
Yeah, so it's just the staffing problems are all across the country. And another thing about COVID is that a lot of the facilities learned how to operate without people coming in person. And when people come in person, it's a staffing challenge, right? Like they have to like make sure that staff are there to like take you from point A to point B. And when they realized they could like do programming on tablets, then that made it easier for them. But my recommendation is I play the long game just in life in general. And you got to kind of wait it out. And people in prisons, they think they can outweight you but this is like government in general. Like, I used to work in government too. A lot of people, it's just if you play the long game and you just keep on keeping on, eventually someone
Right.
is going to let you in that door. But who's already volunteer, like who's already got volunteer programs at Bedford?
Well, this one is through our church. And we're very interested in women who have children on the outside, and also women who have their babies in prison. So we really want to work with them. The women whose children are on the outside, we have this thought about having them read books to their children on tape, and or video, and we would send the book and the video to the children, and just having them connect to their children and having them connect to motherhood where they think they cannot in prison, and that role. So there was another church that is in there, but they said that it took them a while, but it's not as long as we've been waiting for this. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think, they're saying, well, maybe they'll get tired of waiting and stop annoying us. But we're not gonna do
Yes.
that.
I mean, I think that's kind of part of the definition. The definition of faith in some ways is just like being really stubborn. So I would commend just stubbornness in this
Okay.
space. But I would also say that there are ways to provide resources that aren't physical. So first of all, reentry spaces. I would definitely look at reentry spaces for women in your community. I will say here in like from where I am in North Carolina, there's nowhere near enough reentry services for women because it's all designed for men. So you have to find your low-hanging fruit and just have multiple plans, right? Like be stubborn of trying to get to the prison, but then flexible of trying to think about, well, how can I meet and serve this need, which is so great. So I'd say like look at reentry centers in your area. And also, there are programs where people are doing just what you described of having moms read books to kids and sending books in. So I would look to see like, are there books that you could be offering to the prison? Are there any kind of women's facilities that have nurseries that could use things like use resources and just see what's like already available that could use resources while you're trying to get in at the same time?
Yeah, we're doing that. That's
Okay, great. Great. Yeah.
But the reentry, we haven't tried that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Another thing, if you want to be a squeaky wheel, because I have failed at so many things. So I just like squeak and squeak and squeak, and every once in a while something works. But one of the things I failed at was trying to get kind of additional medical services for women in local jails when they were pregnant. And there were programs locally that would do that. And then we just couldn't make that connection. But I'd say like just look around and see what people are doing and be a squeaky wheel of trying to make connections. Don't let like knocking on a door be the one thing that you're doing and then just have that give you blisters and sadness.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Comments? Sita, is there anything you'd like to add?
I've really, really enjoyed listening to Erin's presentation, and I turned 84 days ago, and it's so beautiful to watch how she is doing and what she is bringing to this project that began so many years ago. I am deeply touched and thankful, dear Erin.
Thank you, Sita.
Blessings to you.
Well, if there are no more comments or questions, or Jeff, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, nothing to add other than raise your hand if you don't think Cito is a day over 60. No, this was wonderful. And I really, because I'm so political, Erin, I really appreciated how you navigate this topic and really keep it focused on the people and people's experience and the hardship and the suffering and surviving this prison experience. When when that whole paradigm, that whole industry, dare I say, is so fraught with politics and Michelle Alexander, the new Jim Crow, and so I really appreciate that. It keeps the dialogue from dropping into kind of a sort of a dualistic conflict based view, and it's where it should be. So thank you so much, and happy birthday to you all.
I just wanted to respond to what Jeff said, because I think it's really important to hold those two realities of, the personal is political, and what can we do to help people at the individual level, while also like holding in like strong reality, the systemic injustice and the systemic racism that is at the heart of our criminal legal system. And to say like, that is a fact. And let's not stop there. And I think this is the same kind of conversation of around trauma and resilience, that we can get really, really stuck on trauma being the beginning, middle, and end to stories. And when we do that, we disempower people, and we don't see the like full reality of their radiant beings, right? And we're not doing the work to help them to like strip off what's underneath that trauma, and also see all the like amazing skills and beauties and strength that have surrounded them in their lives. So I think it can be easy to do some spiritual bypassing and saying like, oh, you can be free in your mind, and so you don't need to like, then that means you should be free in this world that has no injustice. Like, we gotta hold both of these realities as true at the same time and walk forward. And I think that's how we walk towards this path of collective liberation, which is, at the end of the day, I would hope, our goal.
So yeah, before we started today, Erin, you mentioned how you thought your mission and Zen Peacemaker's mission are really aligned, and it really made me think of like our Bearing Witness to Homelessness retreat, and some of the same principles, it seems like, are involved.
Oh, I think that's, and I guess this is like goes back to Jeff's piece of like contemplation without action can be its own form of spiritual bypassing. And so I think that the three tenets of the not knowing, the bearing witness, and the taking action are really powerful because it's rooted in humility first, and then saying like, I will be present, I will witness, I will like hold whatever testimony one wants to offer. And that in and of itself, I think is its own powerful action. But then it's really easy to be just weighed down by the immensity of suffering and injustice. And I think that's why like having structures of support and having communities is what allows us to do the work to make pain have a purpose and make pain something that we can turn into an action to alleviate suffering. So yeah, I think y'all's work is great. I just love ZPI. So yeah. And I saw a lot of resonance.
One more thing I would ask Erin and Sital is there how can people help you?
Yeah, I know. I thought about that. So I have kind of a three-part answer. One is if you are not local, which is anybody on this call in North Carolina. Oh wait, four-part. Is anyone on this call in North Carolina in the Triangle region and not currently volunteering with HKF, Sherry? Or Chris? Okay, that's what I thought. So if you are not local, one of the things that we tell people first is to look at like what kinds of similar programs exist in your community. And then if you can find a similar program, we are so happy to share resources. Maria, like the resources for the Families Together Apart, that's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I'm designing that because my sister had a hard time bonding with her daughter, right? So if you find like y'all are in there and you want some of those specific resources, please hit us up. We send a lot of Pema Chodron's books into women's facilities, like any of our books as well that we write. We're happy to send you if you are working in a facility right now. But I was just highlighting the Pema Chodron ones for women's facilities. So please like reach out to us for our resources. You can always donate. That's awesome. And then also, if you have specific skills and you feel like specifically called to our work, please reach out and there might be a way that I can loop you into something. It's hard for us to take on virtual volunteers for things like letter writing, like of course book shipping, because that's very physical. But there definitely could be some things that we're working on that fit things that you're interested in. So, please reach out if you feel specifically called to our mission, but our mission is a shared mission. So, any way that we're able to support work that you're doing in your community or like help give you the moral support to like keep on knocking on whatever doors in your community, we're here for that.